It's almost as if I should try and automate it and have it just start by default. I wonder how I do that. That would solve this problem, wouldn't it? Okay. So I'm basing my current design off sort of an additional set of requirements, not just the rules of FizzBuzz, but rules of FizzBuzz plus some formatted output. So as a result, I'm going to think about this to begin with in two classes. One class is responsible for converting the original integer value to the FizzBuzz value, and we've done this probably a bunch of times just using an if-else statement with different conditions. And then I also want to be able to format the output. And the thing that I want to for it to show is, as we see on the left, the original numbers and then the FizzBuzz. So those are the two inputs. Those are the two things that change. Therefore, they should be the two inputs. And that's so far what I'm thinking. So if I add some names to this now, I can probably call this my main FizzBuzz class, if I give a name to the sort of the object below, I don't really have any specific I don't know, ideas about what to name this. I guess let's call it a prettifier because I'm feeling in that mood. Let's go prettify the output. What else do I want to do? So I've got names for my classes. I need to have some method names. So at the moment, I'm just going to do one number at a time. I'm not going to loop through and show all of them. I'm just going to do one number at a time. It's going to just simplify our work for today. So this method here is, I'm going to call it play. Oh, that's not the right color to choose. So let's use the method play. It's going to just like play the game FizzBuzz on a certain number, take the integer value, and then output a FizzBuzz value. What am I going to call this method down here that takes these two inputs? Anyone got any ideas what to call it? Any fun ideas to call this method name? This idea is to format the output. We can call it format maybe. Great. No one has suggestions. Let's call it format. Okay, what else do I need? I've got my class names, I've got my method names, I have the inputs and outputs. It's not quite organized in a table. I'm doing a rough sketch at the moment, so hopefully you can follow. Part of it's intentional, and we don't always need to write tables out as long as we understand the inputs and outputs and method names and object names. If you want to draw a table, absolutely, to help structure your thinking, that's also really great. Anything that I'm missing before I start work, do you think? Sound good so far? We all have a sense of what we're going to be doing? Some nods, some thumbs, cool. All right. So again, this is part of the design process, or part of the TV process is about the design and making sure we clarify ahead of time what we want our program to do, what is the expected behavior, and then we can codify it. So that's a useful insight and reflection to show that anyone who's asking you about TUV is thinking about that mindset and about understanding your program behavior before you start writing code. Okay, so let's have a look. I've got an empty project here, and let's start off with the. Let's go. What approach should we do? Let's go bottom up for the moment, and we're going to do the prettifier class for the moment. So let's create a class. And so far I've given it a name like so. And let's remind ourselves what the sort of inputs and outputs are. Once I've got my class here, I can right-click, Tools, create update tests. I'm just going to create a test for it. I guess I don't need this for the moment. And yeah, I do need some setup probably. And my my first test for this is going to be formats output. I probably only need one test for the moment. What do I want it to do? Okay, so the first thing I want it to do is create an instance of my class. This is the type. It's going to be the output. It's going to be the variable I store it in. New prettifier. And I want it to run the format method with these two different values and have a string output. So let's do prettifier.format. And then let's say, for example, we want 5, and this is going to be a buzz, hopefully. I want to assert that this is equal to, so equals, I want this to be equal to something like, what did I say? 5 is buzz. Something like this. So I create a new instance of my. I don't need to set up, so let's move it for the moment. I might try it out later, but let's keep it super simple for this exercise. In which case, I don't need this info. Create a new instance of my prettifier class, and I call the method format with 2 arguments. The first is the number, the second is the result, and then I'm going to format it. So it's just as a simple conversion. Essentially, just creates a string. We can see here that my editor is throwing a warning to me that if I try and run this, it'll throw an error because it can't find this format method because I haven't written it yet. So I can just go ahead and use my editor to create the method for me, and this helps show me what I need to do next. So let's go have a look at what just happened there. It created a format method from this, and let's essentially just edit it. You can either write it manually or just generate some of these methods using your IDE. I want a string result, and I don't really want that second argument to be buzz. I'm just going to call it answer, and this is like, I guess, the original number. Let's give it a little bit of a clearer set of argument names. So here I want to just format my my string, and so it'll be something like I'm going to format this string, and I'm going to do something like I need you to have 2 substitutions. So let's do the first one is going to be the num, and then is, and then the second substitution. So first one is num, the second one's going to be answer. So I think that's going to get us close to my test, which is 5 is buzz, A is B. like this. Okay. Let's run this test and have a look at how we've got so far in making sure we are on the right track. Cool. Yay. Passing test. Cool. Next step. So far, so good. Give me a quick thumbs up. So far, we're on track, following. Any questions so far about what I've been doing?
Yes, I would have a couple of questions. Yeah. So the first is, so the format method, is there a reason you haven't set that public? You just kind of wrote it that way. And also when you return string.format, why are you calling the format within that exact method? Or I don't know, it's just not really adding up what's going on within that.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing. So I've named the same method format, but this format method comes from the string class. So I'm using an inbuilt Java method format to format my string, but also naming my prettifier method format.
All right. Okay, makes sense.
They are two different things, and it returns a string value, so it looks very similar. But this format is built into Java to format strings, and this is my method I've created that has a string return value.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, agreed. Probably not the best name for my string and for my method here. In terms of public, it probably best to always be explicit and say whether it's public or private. This gives an explicit metadata to this method to make sure that also for readability, when people see this, it helps be explicit. Good questions. Anything else?
Yeah, I had a question. How come it's percentage S, not percentage D, considering it's an integer? Is it like converting it into a string?
Yeah, it's just a placeholder. It's a substitution for each string that you want.
But I thought it throws error if it's not the same type. I thought there's different percentages for different types.
The placeholder for string it can be done like this because it interpolates into a string. I think I'm not sure what your question is.
According to the docs, percentage S can take any type.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Cool. Other questions? So far, so good. Cool. So let's move on to our FizzBuzz class. So let's create a quick class. This we call FizzBuzz, and well, that's fun. Great. And let's create a test. JavaBuzz, FizzBuzz test, also far so good. Just need the initializer. I don't really need the initializer because I wasn't using it before, because we're doing it really simple for the moment. Let's call this one of our scenarios. Let's say, for example, int1 returns string1. For example, 1 is 1. Let's do this test first. Okay, so part of my test setup is I want to create a FizzBuzz variable. I want to create it with an instance of my prettifier. So let's do something like like this. And then I want to create my FizzBuzz with my prettifier. So let's create it something like this. So I can create a constructor and just try and help speed up this by doing it automatically. So let's generate it in a second. What else do I want to do in this test? I create a FizzBuzz with my other class, injecting my dependency, something quite familiar, hopefully, that we will remember how to do. And it's tomorrow morning, we'll look at how we can isolate this. So rather than actually use the class, we'll be able to isolate it using a mock. But for the moment, let's not worry about it. Just remember how to inject dependencies into classes. So our FizzBuzz instance is going to use the prettifier instance to help generate the right output. So then we need a FizzBuzz and assert equals. Assert equals that when I call FizzBuzz dot play, I think is the method I want. Is that what I called it? Play, yeah. Let's say with 1, because that's my test, that this is equal to 1 is 1. Look at that, what a test. Okay, so far so good with the sort of idea of this test. 2 classes being used together. There's a couple of errors here because I haven't written my IDEs, like already looking ahead, trying to compile ahead of time and show me errors that says I don't actually have a constructor or the right kind of constructor. I don't have a play method. So let's create it. And let's have a look at my FizzBuzz class. Okay, so I have my main constructor, and when it generates, I can probably change the default at some point. My constructor here takes in sort of an instance of prettifier. Let's get rid of this because now we're implementing it. Let's store it on the instance, and let's make sure it's the scope is set. We store it. We also, I think that's the only thing we need in the constructor. And then we have a play method. What does my play method return? My play method is always going to return a string and it has an integer value. As integer, let's give it a better name. Single variable names, single character names are never good. I want this to be a string output. Let's be explicit, it's a public method. I need to return, and this is where I do my, I need some kind of return statement. Probably going to use my prettifier here at the bottom. Yeah, we could use it straight away, prettifier. What was my method called? Format. It will take in whatever the original number and then answer. So I have to set what answer is. So here, let's do a if condition, and this. Sorry if you've done this 100,000 times, writing all the conditions of FizzBuzz. If what's the first one, folks? For FizzBuzz, what's the first condition?
If divisible by 15 is FizzBuzz.
If when we take the mod, the remainder should be 0. If it is equal to 0, then we should return. No, I'm not returning yet. So let's set answer to be FizzBuzz. in which case I need to, yeah, okay. What's the next condition? Lewis, next condition. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's the right one. Okay, you're also on mute, just FYI. Okay, if number is divisible by 5, I need an else if, because I'm not paying attention. If it's divisible by 5, answer is what? If it's divisible by 5, I'm buzz, right? Yeah, hopefully. Else if num is 3, divisible by 3, it should, oh, no, hold on, 0. If the remainder is 0, when we divide it by 3, then the answer is going to be fizz. Else answer is equal to, then we have to convert the integer to strong. Yeah, absolutely. Convert num to a string. We're going to just do integer 1 into string 1. So we all have the same type because we said our play method has to return a string. And then at the end of this method, once we have the result, the fizzbuzz value, so this creates the fizzbuzz value, and we take the fizzbuzz value, and then we create our sort of like pretty answer. So I've actually gone ahead and write the whole condition, which is against my test-driven development process. I probably should have done one condition. And so let's, I think that's, it's frustrating because I just went ahead and did that. But let's run this test anyway. So fizzbuzz test, let's run it. Where are we? Cool, so then we have a passing test. I think what I should have done was just take it a little bit more slowly because I've only got one test so far, and I should have just done the first part and then built it up slowly rather than going ahead and writing all of it. So let's write another test just to make sure we cover some of the other cases. 3 returns fizz. 3 is fizz. Let's make sure this is still working. One test and one test failed. So let's double check what happened. One is 1, expected 1 is 1, but 3 is fizz. Because I need to change the actual number. Look at that, my actual test was like terrible. Okay, let's run it again. That's what happens when you copy and paste all the time. Okay, let's do 2 more tests just to make sure we've got most of them covered, and then we'll stop and do a quick Q&A and hand over to you to repeat. So let's do 5 returns buzz. Play 5. 5 is buzz, and 15 returns string fizzbuzz, and 15 is fizzbuzz. Cool. So we have our 4 different sort of, specific outcomes. Probably you can write as many as you want. Those are the main scenarios at the moment, and I can probably dry out this code because this is common setup. But I won't do it just now, but I would do that next. Dry out this code, so we only have like this one assertion in this line. Okay, let's pause there for questions about making sure that we remember our test-driven process, thinking back from creating a domain model to understand what our inputs and outputs are for our classes, class names, and method names, how we then use our IDE to create our classes, create a test, write the test first, and get that to drive our development. We demonstrated using two classes together in our FizzBuzz class, and remembering to be able to think about passing in all dependencies via an argument rather than hard coding it inside of our class, thinking about our design process. Thoughts and questions?
Is it possible to discuss line 14 again, like knowing that line, but I thought you would be doing that in line 16. I guess not.
So this is saying the scope of the variable.
Oh, okay.
Like if you remember when we were using JavaScript, you would sometimes need to use const and just declare the variable, and then you can, or let rather, and then assign it in different places.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, same thing here.
All right, thanks.
Other thoughts and questions? Cool. Let's hand it to you. So I'm going to pair you up and have a go doing the same thing. Once you've gone through this process, I've got another challenge for you. But take it from the top. Think about your test-driven process and try and test drive it incrementally, one test at a time. So pay more attention to the test-driven process than actually just writing FizzBuzz, so you can sort of lean into this process. I will use it on Zoom. So let's do Zoom breakout rooms. And I'm going to stop the recording.